that I'm doing for you guys in the Fill My Belly unit for Hunters Hill High School. So this is a really easy recipe, and this is probably the one that you'll enjoy the most. However, it does take the longest to cook, and it won't cook in the 1 period time frame that you've been given in class. So it will be done hopefully just before lunchtime, so it's when you can come back at a certain time and get your cakes from the oven. I'll look after them for you in the meantime. So this recipe being easy to do, just like any other recipe, you have to do your mise en place or get all your basic preparations done beforehand. Now, this recipe has 8 eggs in it. Now, bearing in mind that you are sharing this between 2 people, so it's 4 eggs between 2 people. So in preparation to start this recipe, I've got what's called a bain-marie. Now, bain-marie is just a pot of water on the stove, and I've got it up the top. So you need to bring that to boiling. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is make sure you get a pot where a bowl will sit in like that quite safely. Now this bowl is going to get very hot once you start doing this, so you need to be very careful. You need to put your pan on the stove, bring the water to the boil. Now I've had that on now for a few minutes, so the water's starting to come to temperature. I've also got my baking tin ready. I would normally cover that in greaseproof paper, but I've run out of greaseproof paper, and I don't want to run out to the shops just to buy greaseproof paper because I've got all the rest of the ingredients. So it's a non-stick one. Hopefully this will work. And I've already sprayed some oil, cooking oil, on there to prevent that from sticking. So normally, as I said, I do this recipe with greaseproof paper. So onto my scales, I put my bowl. Now remember to tar your scales, so you bring them to 0. And the first thing I'm going to put in there is the chocolate. Now it does say 375 grams of chocolate. Again, I don't quite have enough of the required chocolate melt I've got 295 in that one. I'm just going to add some white chocolate bits. Again, I hope this works, just to bring it up to the 375. There we go, it's just a bit over. 5 grams over. Beautiful, that's enough. Okay, so I just used the melts. Okay, so it is supposed to be dark chocolate. This is a gluten-free cake, by the way, and it does have almond meal in it. So if you are in any way, shape or form anaphylactic, or anybody in your family is, then please do not use. Hopefully, I will have enough butter here. I haven't got the. So also into that, now so you press the tar again, it brings it back to 0. And then you need to put in 225 grams of butter. Now, if like me, you've just taken your butter from the fridge, then you want to cut it up just a little bit, just to help this process. Otherwise, you'll be there quite some time. And it's exactly the same amount of butter and sugar that goes into there. So it's 225 grams of butter. It's quite a bit. Oh, nearly there, just a tad more. Excellent, right on it, Miss Mackenzie, well done. So as soon as I'm finished with the butter, put that back into the fridge. It's quite a warm day today. So anything like butter and eggs, they're what's known as perishable. So you want to get them back into the fridge as soon as possible. So again, I'm tarring my scales to bring it back to 0. And then I'm going to put in my 225 grams of sugar. Now you need to be very careful you don't go over at this stage, because it's very difficult to get it out once you've got all the rest of your ingredients in there. So I knew I didn't have enough in that one. So I'm just ever so careful in bringing that up to 225 Perfect, right on the nose. Okay, now that's what you need into your bowl. Now because my water's not quite up to boiling yet, it is starting to, I'm just going to pop the bowl on there, and you melt the chocolate, the butter and the sugar all together. Now, I don't think I need my, oh yes I do, I need my scales again, because I am going to measure 150 grams of almond meal. So I'm just, actually, it's a 150 gram packet. It hasn't been opened, so I don't need to measure that. There you go, 150 grams. Well done, miss. 8 eggs separated. Now, this is, use that for that, put my sugar away. My eggs. Now this is the fun bit where we're going to want to whisk up our eggs until peaks form, and you can do this using an electric beater. You can do it using the Kenwood if you've got one as nice as this at home. That's excellent. I've already made meringue nest this morning, so I've got everything I need for this recipe right here. Oh, before I put that in, put this one in. And I will separate my eggs. Don't need the scales anymore. Now, 8 eggs. 1, 2, 4, 6, 7. So I'm going to stop there. I'll leave 5. I've just got to remember. Okay. Now it's very, very important that, I'll use 2 jugs for this, you do not get any of the egg yolk into the egg white, or it will not whisk up to the soft peaks that you want it to. So what we do is we separate our eggs into one small jug. You can do this with your hands, look. Oh, fun. And try and keep your yolks whole, because you're going to use the yolks to go into your other mixture, then into your bowl. If you get to doing it straight over the bowl and you get to your 4th or 5th egg and you accidentally get yolk into there, you've ruined the whole mixture. That's the reason that we put it into just one jug at a time. And some of the egg yolks will, like this one, try and stick to the shell. So it just depends. Now, you wouldn't use your hands if that broke. If that broke, you'd just leave it in the shell. That's broken into the, whoops, into there. That's 2. And there we go. I love the feeling of this, doing it that way. And you can count your egg yolks as you go if you don't break them as well. It gets a bit difficult if they all start to mesh into there. Now your egg yolks actually go into the chocolate mixture once that's cooled a little bit, so you want to try and keep them as whole as you possibly can, because they go in one at a time. And as I say, if you are able to keep your egg yolks whole, then you can count them and you'll know when you've got to 8. Now, if we go back into lockdown and we do this from home, it is quite expensive when it comes to the 8 eggs. But if you've got a big family and a lot of people to feed, they will love you forever. And if you do make it at home, I think I'm on my last one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, this is the last one. You can actually freeze this recipe. It freezes really quite nicely into portions that you can take for lunch to school, or just have for lunches if your family's not large enough to feed them all this at once. So there we go. Excellent. So I've got all my egg whites rather, into the mixing bowl. Just going to wipe up a bit of the spill there. Remember, I've got my washing up water already in the sink. Makes life so much easier. Beautiful, my egg yolks. And remember, if you don't have the bin right next to the bench or wherever it is you're working, then use a scrap bowl for scraps. Okay, so I'm going to pop that into my mixing bowl. Down. And you just beat those until they are stiff. So, just check and see how yep, it's going quite well. I'm going to use a spatula to actually mix it. I'm not going to talk for a little minute because this is going to make a bit of noise. So just watch me work while this beats up. My egg whites are now very stiff, and you can see that I'm picking them up just with the whisk like that. You can see they're very stiff. Beautiful. Makes a good job of the egg whites, the Kenwood. So straight into your washing up water. Makes it so easy to clean. Yeah, put this down. Pop it aside just for a second. Now, leave my egg whites aside, my almond meal, my egg yolks, and over here, remembering this bowl will be getting very hot by now, my chocolate mixture with the sugar and the butter is nearly melted. So in fact, I can take that off and I can switch off my stove, because as you can see, the butter there is nearly melted, and it will by the time I've stirred this a few times. Now, the secret to this recipe is that you want it to cool down a bit before you add your egg yolks. If you add your egg yolks too quickly, you'll end up making scrambled egg inside the chocolate. You don't want that to happen. Now, I was very fortunate that I caught this before the water actually boiled. Otherwise, this would have been too hot and we'd have had to have waited longer. However, It's looking good. It's starting to go just a little bit thick, which is excellent. Now, the next bit of the recipe is to mix in the ground almonds. That will further cool down your mixture. And remember, anybody in your family anaphylactic, do not use this. You can, as an alternative, use coconut flour. And you can, as an alternative, use flour as well, but it's not as nice. This recipe is particularly well suited to gluten-free. Now, that was a whole packet of Forester's almond meal, so you didn't have to measure it out. So straight in with the almond meal. Again, mix round. You could end up with big muscles after this, making this cake. Make sure you break up the lumps of almond meal in there. And you will by the time you've given the egg yolks. So it will, you can see that, looks like that. That's get a bit hard. So now I can start adding my egg yolks one at a time. Oops. Good idea, Miss Mackenzie, to have a tea towel or a non-slip mat underneath your bowl. Just stops it from slipping around quite so much. As soon as you get an egg yolk in, give it a really good beat in between. Now remember, you've got 8 eggs in there, so you're going to have to do this 8 times. Oh, I love this cake. The cake that's actually with this unit is a beetroot cake. I have made that before. I'm not a fan. So I'm giving you a good recipe to try. This is my personal recipe. Can't tell you where I got it from. Big secret. Okay, and I'm going to put all the egg yolk in there now. And there we go. So what makes this cake really beautiful is the way that the egg whites now go into it, nice and fluffy. This is the fun part. I think you'll enjoy making this cake. Now, there's your egg white. Now, essentially, you chuck all that in there and just fold it ever so gently. So it will break down. The egg whites will break down as you start to mix it in. All in at once. Don't be scared. The hard part of this is trying to keep it all in the bowl. If you've got a big enough bowl, excellent. You can't add it back the other way because you have to fold one into the other. I've already got my oven preheated because I've been, as I said before, I've been making meringue nests for another class. I'm just about to get them out the oven now. So before I mix that, I'm going to... Timing's done on my meringue nests and they are quite brown. I didn't want them that brown. So normally with the meringue nests, you would leave those in the oven to dry out once the oven is switched off. But our oven's not going to be switched off. We're going to leave it. Now I have to just check the temperature. It's 180 and I've got this at 150. I might just put it up just to 160 actually. The oven is going just a bit hard at the moment. That's why I think it turned oh nice, really nice. They're good, they're good. So back to the chocolate. Now you don't want to leave this too long or your chocolate at the bottom will start to go hard again. So you've got to do all this straight away. You can't go off and watch something on telly or on the internet and then come back later and say, yeah, I'll mix it later, because it will not work. So you go, folding is around the outside, through the middle. around the outside, and you can see the egg whites are already starting to drop down. And you can do it both hands if your hands get tired. And you'll see every time you flip it over, you'll see more chocolate mix coming to the top. Every time you fold it around, if you see any dark chocolate, then you know you haven't folded it enough, because it should all be the one consistent colour. Okay, now I've finished mixing that around. It doesn't look like there's any more dark colour coming up from the bottom of the bowl. And I've got my bowl ready here, so I'm going to pour this straight in. As I said, I normally do this with baking paper. Hopefully it's going to work without. Now this cake doesn't rise much because it doesn't have any raising agents in it, but I'm not going to fill it up any more than that. This is a new tin that I've got, and my other tin's just a bit bigger. So I'm going to do some muffins with the rest of that mixture, or small chocolate cakes, not muffins. So very, very carefully pop this into the oven. As I said, it doesn't have a raising agent. The only thing that will help this rise a little bit is the air in the egg whites. Now, this cake tends to sink in the middle once it's cooked, and that's okay. So it's just like a sort of really nice moist mud cake. I'll come back when that has had 50 minutes in the oven. That's 50. So I'll just put on my timer for 50 minutes. And actually I'll put it on for about, I'll leave it at 50 because I turned the temperature down. So hopefully it will take 50 minutes. As you could see, when I poured the mixture into the cake tin, there was just a bit much. As I've mentioned, it will rise up because of the air in the egg whites, but when you take it out of the oven, you can see that it will sink in the middle. Well, it's still a bit hot for me to lift. So let it cool in the tin. Because I had some mixture left over, I just did some mini ones in a muffin tray, and they took maybe about 15 to 20 minutes. And again, they will sink in the middle. They're very light because of the air in the egg white mixture, and it is such a beautiful recipe. It's like a chocolate mud cake. It is gluten-free, so enjoy. Oh, decorate it, before I forget, with icing sugar. Get a sieve and just knock some icing sugar across the top and serve as you will.